All right, let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the moral letters by Seneca. We have landed in letter 71, and letter 71, I thought, had some interesting passages in it. However, it is very long, and as a result, I will only read a little bit to you. Excuse me. How then is advice to be found? Let me explain. Each time you want to know what to pursue or what to avoid, look to your highest good, the aim of your life as a whole. Everything we do ought to be in accordance with that aim. Only one who has the entirety of his life in view is in a position to arrange life's particulars. Even with paints all at the ready, no one can render a likeness until he has decided what he wants to paint. That's our mistake. Everyone deliberates over the parts of life, no one over life as a whole. If you want to shoot an arrow, you must know what you are trying to hit. Only then can you direct the point and steady the shaft. Our counsels are all astray in that they have no mark to aim at. If one doesn't know what harbor to make for, there can be no favoring wind. This reminded me, while I was reading it, of rational emotive therapy, also known as rational emotive behavioral therapy, RET or REBT. This was a type of therapy that I've mentioned before, was developed by Albert Ellis, who was certainly a colorful character, I would say. And Albert Ellis developed that type of psychotherapy really based on ancient Greek philosophy, and Stoicism was an important aspect of that. So that really is a form of psychotherapy based on, among other things, but Stoicism. What I find particularly interesting about that is that he actively sought out ancient Greek philosophy to then build a whole school of thought on and around as a therapist. Later, that rational emotive therapy more or less evolved into cognitive behavioral therapy, which I think is more well known these days, and is certainly more practiced these days. And cognitive behavioral therapy as well. The founders of that have certainly indicated that they've also been influenced by ancient Greek philosophy. So, in other words, there is a bit of a common ground there, which I think is very interesting and something that we shouldn't lose track of. Because if Stoicism has the potential to inform psychotherapy, types of psychotherapy still used today, types of psychotherapy, especially with cognitive behavioral therapy, that have been shown to be really quite effective in a number of contexts, in treating a number of different psychological issues. That means that there is something to Stoicism, I would say. Anyway, having said that, what I was reminded of in reading this is the idea from rational emotive therapy, and I'm sorry if there's noises in the background. Right now, people have decided to use a snowblower right outside here, but it looks like there has been about 15-20 centimeters of snow overnight, so it's not a bad thing either. Plus, it's outside of our control, so just ignore it. But what's interesting is, what I was reminded of is the idea, is the idea of a rational choice. A rational choice in rational emotive therapy certainly has the meaning of rational as we would use it in English. It's a rational decision, it's a well thought through decision, as opposed to a quick intuitive response. We know that very fast intuitive responses are not always good, right? Think of responding in anger. That is not necessarily helpful, right? If you're able to take a step back and provide a more rational response to that specific situation, usually that's better. So rational emotive therapy says a rational response is a response that will help you achieve your goals in the world. And that might be a matter of remain calmer, be less affected by things around you, feel better, start to work through feelings of depression. All these kinds of things matter. And I found it interesting that Seneca is giving very similar advice, right? Each time you want to know what to pursue or what to avoid, look to your highest good, the aim of your life as a whole. And that is, as I understand it, pretty much what a rational emotive therapist would say. Look at whether what you are doing is helping you achieve any goals that you have set for yourself. Look at whether the decision you are making now is getting you closer to a goal you want to achieve or removes you farther from a goal that you seek to achieve. If your idea is to achieve a certain goal, then everything you do must be in accordance with trying to achieve that goal. And certain things will not do that. And this does not have to be, I want to become rich or something. I'm more talking about goals along the lines of, I want to be less of a toy of my emotions. I want to be less impacted by something negative happening to me. I want to learn to process that better. If that is your goal, then getting upset about every small thing in life, even though sometimes that's very easy, it's kind of a reflexive thing for us, that would be a bad thing, because getting upset over every small bad thing happening in your life will bring you farther away from achieving the goal that you have set for yourself. And a rational emotive therapist would say, therefore, that is not a rational choice. And learning to make rational choices, keeping your life in mind, keeping that as a perspective, I think is very important, and I think is something that has the potential to make a really big difference in our lives. Okay. I enjoyed this short passage in this letter as well. Again, it's a very long letter. If one is not happy, one cannot have attained the highest good. The highest good does not admit of any further degree of goodness, as long as there is virtue in it, as long as adversity does not diminish that virtue, as long as virtue remains intact even when the body is maimed. But it does remain intact, for I understand virtue to refer to that brave, exalted virtue which draws energy from whatever opposes it. Once again, we see the central importance of virtue in Stoicism. By being virtuous, by making the right choices, by doing and saying the right things, you are doing good. And by doing so, you will be good. If one is not happy, one cannot have attained the highest good. By being virtuous, by doing the right things, you will be happy. How could you not be happy if you do the right thing all the time? After all, it is the right thing. What's this, you say? Reclining at dinner is equal to being tortured? Does this surprise you? Here is something that will amaze you even more. Reclining at dinner is bad, and lying on the rack is good, if the one is done in a disgraceful manner and the other honorably. It is not the material that makes them good or bad, but virtue. Wherever that appears, everything is of the same measure and the same value. Now, here we get to the extreme cases of Stoicism, right? You can do the right thing even when you are being tortured. Well, that's a very, very extreme example, one that is often used, and I think one that's also often used as kind of an argument against Stoicism, saying like, how can you be happy when you're being tortured? How can you just say, oh, well, it's outside of my control, go ahead, don't worry. That's very strange, right? But I think you have to look at certainly a hardcore Stoic would say, no, that's true. You have the choice over how you respond to something, even when you are in pain, even etc. Sure, torture might be a step too far for some people, and I understand that. But I think the point Seneca is trying to make is an exceptionally good point. Namely, it doesn't really matter what you do, but it matters how you do it. You can be completely gluttonous while you are eating, and that is not virtuous. You can also have an argument with someone, but if you are trying to help that person with that argument, even though it may have ended in an argument, your goal was to really help that person. And assuming that that was a genuine intention that you had, then aren't you really doing the right thing? You could choose not to do that thing, certainly. You could choose to end an argument, of course. But at the end of the day, it's not really about what you do, but how you do it, how you choose to carry yourself in what you do. And I think that is something we often forget. It's about how we do it. And I suppose it is also about what we do. There are certainly things in life that are bad. I should probably not walk out into the street with a broom and start to hit this poor snowblower person because they started to blow snow while I was trying to record a video. That's probably not a virtuous action. So sure, it matters what we do, but it also matters how we do it. And one of the important aspects of Stoicism is even in the small matters, it's important how you do those things, because they're important as well. Not just the big things in life, but the small things should be done carefully, precisely, rationally as well. And that we often forget. Okay, I hope this was useful. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this, the fragments that I've read you of this letter. I'll gladly see you again next week. More talk about Stoicism.